Welcome to week 7, everybody. This is our week 7 overview, and we have a lot going on this week, so please pay attention. And if you have questions, feel free to email me and I will clarify anything. So the first thing I want to talk to you about are updates for this week. You can see over here I have a big stack of papers. This big stack of papers are twofold. I have all of your narratives. I have printed them. I have not begun to grade them yet. I like to give myself a little bit of space in between the last draft and the final draft because I want it to be fresh when I correct them. And I'll be grading them on and uploading the grade sheet online. I just want to forewarn you that I gave you a whole lot of notes and margin notes in all of your drafts, but I will not be doing that for your final draft. You will just get a grade sheet with notes on it from me. So just so you know what to expect for that. The other reason there's all these papers over here is because this week last week we began with some of the texts that we will be using for the next 8 weeks in our rhetorical mode essay unit. This is our great big paper. This is the one that's we spend the most time on and that we work the hardest on. And it's a complicated process, which you already know. And it involves wide reading and a lot of texts. So my advice to you is that you should print all of the texts. You should have printed all of the text that you wrote your definitions for, your paraphrase definitions for last week. And I'm giving you a whole lot more texts this week that should all be printed as well. If you're having trouble with that, please reach out to me. I have some extra copies because you know that this has been a face-to-face class for a couple of years. And so I have some extras. If you want me to hand out copies, I would be happy to do that because it is a lot. And you will have to be printing some on your own anyway because you'll be researching for some on your own as well. So it's just a lot of paper, and I know that, and it's sort of like building our own textbook. And that is kind of exciting when you think about it. So this whole unit is all about wide reading and research and using all of kinds of different sources in order to write your paper. Okay, so here's the overview of the week. You can see that we have serial, we have an argument component. You're going to be reading some stories that I've chosen for you, and you're going to start to build your personal text set that you'll be using to write your paper. So that will be starting this week. Not due this week, but starting. All right, so you all know how to do serial, but this week there's a little bit of a exciting part. In episode 7, Adnan is going to be, not Adnan, but Sarah Koenig is going to contact the Innocence Project to talk about Adnan's case. And our argument component this week is also going to be related to the Innocence Project. It's actually coming out against the Innocence Project. So it is a very interesting connection between our argument unit and serial this week. I would really encourage you to do a little bit of Googling on the Innocence Project so you know what it's about and you have a little bit of background knowledge, and then how that's going to relate to your rhetorical analysis for this week. And on the discussion board this week, it's also going to ask you some more specific questions, making connections between in the case for the Guilty Project and the Innocence Project. All right, so that brings us right into the argument, right? In Praise of the Guilty Project, this is by Abby Smith, and this week you are going to have an opportunity to try out some parts of the rhetorical analysis all by yourself. So really, there's a video. There's a video that I made for this assignment. Please, please, please watch it, because I'm going to give you some of the answers in that video. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to print out the article. It's a pretty long article. You're going to print out the rhetorical analysis worksheet. So it's all ready to go. I ask you in the beginning of the video to please read it before you start the video, because then you'll have some awareness of what I'm talking about when I'm going through and setting up your rhetorical analysis. Then watch the setup video, finish up the worksheet, and then you're going to upload that worksheet into the assignment folder. Okay, so this is an assignment. I'm going to look at it. It's a graded assignment, so do the best you can. And like I said, I give you some of the answers in the video, so it's worth your while to watch the video. All right, and I want a little note about audience. Abby Smith is a lawyer, and she wrote this article, and it was published in the UPenn Journal of Law and Social Change, and that is a lawyer's journal. Like, that's where lawyers read. So I want you to think about that audience as you're reading In Praise of the Guilty Project. All right, our next thing is justice story sorting. So we have this it's called Justice Required Stories text set, and it was so big that I couldn't even take a screenshot of the whole thing. It wasn't all the way on my screen. So you have 7 stories, and these stories are, some of them are children's stories, some of them are myths, some of them we got online. So we chose these stories specifically for each justice type. So what your job is going to be you're going to read the stories. And like I said, this whole week is wide reading. This whole unit is wide reading. You're going to keep revisiting the texts. You're going to keep reading widely. So you're going to read these stories, and you're going to sort them. So like I said, print them out, read them, and then you're going to sort them. And you should have one story per justice type. So you'll have one story that matches commutative justice, and one story that matches distributive justice. There is an exception for social justice. There are 3 stories for social justice. So you should have 3 under social justice, but every other justice type, the other 6, should have one story each. One story for legal justice, one story for all of them. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. You're going to first sort them, and then you are going to write a paper, and this paper is going to be uploaded to the assignment folder. And the paper is just going to explain your sorting. So you're going to list the justice types on your paper: commutative, distributive, social, procedural, retributive, restorative, and legal. 7, just list them. And then you're going to provide the story name, just the name of it, that fits each. Okay, right next to it. So you'd say commutative justice, and then you choose a story. And then you list the name of the story there. Okay? And then you're going to provide a thorough justification of why you chose that story. Why is that story an illustration of that justice type? And this should be pretty simple, because last week you wrote definitions. You paraphrased definitions for each of the justice types. So you should have in your head how all of these justice types are different. Right? They're contrasting. I mean, there's a lot that overlap. Of course, it's all about justice. But you should have in your head how they contrast each other. And so then you're just going to tell why you chose the story you did that you think represents that justice type. Okay? And then, you might want to have those expository texts out, and you might want to provide some textual evidence from those texts as well. Some quotes from the expository texts. All right, and you're going to do that for each justice type, and that's your paper. All right, so that one is, I'm really excited to see what you do with that one. That one's fun. The next thing you have to start, and this is not due this week, this is due Friday of week 8, so you have 2 weeks to do this, but I'd get started now, is you're going to do some research. Part of our Common Course outline in 1101 freshman composition is research, and a lot of other 1101 teachers go to the library and they have you looking at scholarly articles. But when Jan and I wrote this class, we want you to be researching stories for this paper. So your job is going to be to do an open research and find 6 stories. And each one of those stories should match 6 of the justice types. Okay, we're taking legal justice out of this research. That is sort of a modeling justice type that we added on just to give some modeling. So you're just going to use the other 6 justice types to research, and you're going to pick 6 stories that fit, 1 for each justice type. So you're going to be looking for example, a story that illustrates commutative justice. And we really, really want you to find stories. You can use articles that are nonfiction as long as they have a story component. So a lot of times our students would go camp out in the library in the children's section and look at myths, fairy tales, legends, folk tales. There's a lot of people went online and Googled stuff, and they found really great stuff online. Jan and I found really great stuff online too when we were doing this. And then you're also going to go into the pool. We have a sheet where Jan and I pulled our best examples that were extra into a pool, and all 6 justice types are represented, and there's like 4 or 5 different choices for each justice type, and you'll be choosing 2 stories per justice type from the pool to build your own text set. So your text set will consist of your 6 that you research and find on your own, 2 from each justice type from the pool, so that's 12, and then the required ones that we have given you this week, which are another 7. So that's going to be your text set. Oh, and of course the expository texts. So those are going to be that's going to be your text set that you're going to be writing your paper from. All right, so all this research is going to be due next week, week 8 on Friday, and just really make sure that you read all of the pool choices, because you cannot duplicate the pool choices in your open research. All right, so like even if there's a pool one that is in the pool and you don't choose it from the pool, you can't duplicate it. Does that make sense? So it has to be 6 original stories that aren't in the pool and that we didn't choose for you. Okay? All right. So any questions, you can always email me and ask me. And I think that's it for week 7. Have fun reading. Find a nice cozy spot and do some great research and read widely and write, and have a great week. And I will look forward to reading all of your things.